mood swings, lack of focus, and sometimes even depression. Low testosterone. Do you have it? And if you do, how do you identify it and how do you fix it? In this video, we're going to talk about how to figure it out and, more importantly, some actionable steps on how to take the initiative to fix it if this is you. We've got 5 different elements we're going to talk about today. Number 1, decreased libido. Number 2, erectile dysfunction. Number 3, fatigue, even chronic fatigue. Number 4, loss of muscle and fat gain. And number 5, mood swings, lack of focus, and sometimes even depression. So let's get down into this bad boy. Number 1, decreased libido. Decreased libido, and keep in mind, number 2 is erectile dysfunction. I want to make sure you guys understand the difference. Decreased libido is not wanting to have sex. Erectile dysfunction is wanting to have sex but not being able to get it up. So let's talk about decreased libido. So you might have an amazing wife or girlfriend or whatever it is, and you just don't want to have sex. And it's like, in many cases, you may not even know it. Like in my case, what happened with me when I was suffering from this is, I was being asked, why don't you want to have sex with me? And I was like, holy shit, I didn't even think about that. We haven't had sex for a long time. Well, when you don't want something, you don't really think about it much, and time passes. Well, just remember, if you don't have the desire to have sex, that is decreased libido. And there's a huge chance that you have low testosterone. Now, let's not pin everything in this video on low testosterone, because there's other elements of this whole thing that can play into it. If you're living your life in a way that's unhealthy, maybe you're not sleeping enough. Maybe you got a job that just doesn't allow you to sleep enough on a regular basis. If you're not sleeping regularly well enough, this can be a massive part of decreased libido. It can also be a massive part of low testosterone. So just remember, I'm not saying that any of this stuff is a guaranteed low testosterone or lifestyle. I'm saying that they both can play into it equally. But the good news is you can say, you know what? I'm going to be a little more diligent in my sleep. And I'm going to figure out if it's just my sleep or if it is low testosterone. So we get on this list. You can really kind of take some actionable steps to figure out if that has to do with your low testosterone or the way you're living your life. So I know for myself and for plenty of my clients, we have actually restored libido through changing lifestyle. What is lifestyle? It's the way you sleep, it's the way you eat, and it's the way that you hydrate. These are very, very important. And exercise too. Obviously, we need to add that in the equation, but I don't want you to think that working out is going to be the cure-all. So if you're living your life in a way where you're not really giving the proper attention to those elements, there's a good chance that that could have something to do with it, and your testosterone is okay. Now, the flip side is if you've been living your life for a long time that way, that could also be why your testosterone is low. So what I would suggest is live a little bit more intentionally with how you live your life in more of a healthy regard and see if your libido starts to return. If that's the case, in many cases, when you live your life in a better regard and with more of a healthy ripple effect, it will actually not only increase your libido, but it'll actually help your testosterone rise just by living your life better. So you're kind of killing 2 birds with 1 stone. All right, number 2, erectile dysfunction. Now, this is, let's say your libido's fine. You want to have sex, man. You got the hots for your wife. But when it comes down to it, you're just not getting a good piece of wood. You're not getting a boner. You're just not getting what you need to have sex. Well, I've been down that road too. And that's a tough one as well, because when it comes right down to it and you're ready to go and you can't get it up, it's embarrassing. Let's be honest. But just keep in mind, it's happened to just about everybody. So try not to get too bent out of shape if this is something that you've dealt with or are dealing with, because it can be fixed. Now, of course, we have medication. There's Viagra, there's Cialis, which is a great short-term fix. But really what we want to do is we want to get to the root of the problem. So just like libido or decreased libido, we want to look at how we're living our life, because the way we live our life could be actually lowering the testosterone, or it could be actually just making the erectile dysfunction occurring because we're living our lives in a way where the body's not operating the way it should. So again, you got to look at these two elements. They kind of fit hand in hand. And the best way to figure out if your testosterone is low or if you're living your life in a way that's causing this stuff is just to kind of put a little bit more effort into your food choices. Make sure that you're getting some blood flow, whether it's a walk or going to the gym. Get a little exercise. Make sure that you're paying attention to your sleep. The easiest way to do that is have a set bedtime. Everybody has a set wake up time. When you start having a set bedtime, your circadian rhythm develops, which is your body's ability to sleep efficiently. You actually end up getting better sleep, which can have a huge, huge piece of this puzzle. And then the last thing is the hydration. A lot of times people have a hard time with that. Well, the simplest way to do hydration is make sure that you are drinking a tall glass of water every time you eat. And then if you're paying attention to your eating habits, you're eating at least 3 times a day. And that will kind of get you moving in the right direction. And if you see that, hey, this little change in lifestyle is making a difference in how I'm feeling with my decreased libido and my erectile dysfunction, hey, we're moving in the right direction. If it doesn't make a difference, probably you're low testosterone. All right. Number 3, fatigue, sometimes even chronic fatigue. Now, this is kind of a weird one because it's not just being tired you're tired because you've been working too much. You're tired because maybe you haven't sleeping well enough. You're tired because of just kind of your food choices. Or you're tired because of just kind of the average American tired. And then there's tired like you just don't want to do much, like that for life is kind of gone. So it's a slippery slope to describe this. So what I like to do is put it in a slightly different term. So we all know what a bull looks like. This big, massive animal. And, as we know, they're just full of testosterone. They're doing everything intention. They're out there. I mean, their job is basically when a farmer has a bull, he's basically having that bull impregnate the female cow so they can reproduce. He wants to have sex. He wants to eat. He wants to be the biggest, baddest dude in the pasture. Well, that's high levels of testosterone in that bull. Well, then there's the flip side where they take bulls when they're young and they castrate them. They cut their nuts off or whatever the process is. Well, now the testosterone is pretty much gone. And now this animal is very different. All that animal wants to do, all that cow wants to do is eat. And he just kind of lumbers around. He doesn't really have much intention for anything he's doing except for kind of doing nothing and eating. So that kind of should help you understand there's a difference between being tired and just being like fatigued of life. Like you just don't want to live life. You just don't want to do what you normally want to do. That is a massive, massive signal of low testosterone. Now, again, your lifestyle can have a big, big piece of this if this is the way you feel. And if you have this, living your life better in terms of, and we've talked about the elements in the top 2, is that you get that ripple effect going the right way, you might start to feel better, just in a matter of a week or so. Well, if you've lived your life that way too long and you've actually lived it to the point where your testosterone has dropped, or who knows, maybe you're older, there's a ton of reasons why your testosterone can be low. But I would say in America, one of the biggest reasons is the way that people live their lives. They live their lives in a way where their bodies are rippling in an unhealthy way. And your endocrine system, especially your testosterone, is going to ripple down, meaning poorly, meaning unhealthy, meaning you're suffering from all the stuff that we're talking about. So if you recognize that you've got this type of fatigue, then I would say massive, massive chance that you've got low testosterone. And the good news is, at the end of this video, I'm going to give you a couple simple steps to get a blood test where you don't even have to go see your doctor to figure out if you have it. And then obviously, if you have it, we'll talk about how you go about fixing it. So, number 4, muscle loss and fat gain. Well, if you're dealing with number 3, fatigue, the odds are you're probably not even wanting to go to the gym, or you're not even wanting to exercise at all, which is going to be obviously play a factor into losing muscle and gaining fat. But if you are working out, if you are exercising and you're noticing that your performance is just constantly getting worse, but you're putting in the work, there's a good chance that your testosterone is playing a role in that. Now, usually when people are exercising, they're fairly conscious of what they're eating. They're fairly conscious of sleep, fairly conscious of hydration. So if this is you and you're feeling like you're having a hell of a time staying in shape or getting in shape or making any progress, there's a really, really good chance that it's low testosterone. And again, what you can always do is put a little bit more effort into the things we talked about: sleep, food, hydration. And if you notice, hey, I'm starting to make progress again, then your testosterone's probably not the culprit. It's just you weren't quite dialed in your habits, the way you're living your life. So that's number 4. And remember, when you are putting in the effort and you're still moving backwards, that's a really, really clear indicator of low testosterone. Because as a male, our testosterone should be within a certain range that if we are living our life in, with that good ripple effect, we will be getting some sort of result when it comes to our health and fitness. So, and again, this is one of those things I can't tell you how many people I've helped my clients with, in terms of sometimes it's just helping them restore their testosterone with better habits of life. Sometimes it's actually going through the steps of restoring it, like we're going to talk about here at the end of this video. So let's talk about number 5, mood, lack of focus, and even depression. Now, this is a brutal one. When I went through this, I can definitely say that I had all of that. My moods were very up and down. The lack of focus was very real. And I would say I shouldn't say probably, I suffer from a little depression. What I mean by that is I just wasn't feeling like myself. Now, depression comes in many forms. Depression doesn't mean you're getting ready to kill yourself. It just means that you're having a hard time seeing the sun in your world. The glass is half empty, not half full. You just feel like you're just not yourself. Well, again, this can come from the way you live your life, but it can also come from low testosterone. And the thing about this one is, if you feel like your mood is altering the quality of your life, altering your relationships, and potentially become a danger to yourself, then you got to take some affirmative action. Obviously, if are you sleeping well? Are you eating well? Are you hydrating? Are you taking care of yourself? If you are, it's time to go get a test to see what's up with your testosterone, which is what we're going to talk about right now. So, in many cases, people are kind of embarrassed about this and they don't want to go to their doctor and tell them what's going on. And sometimes it takes weeks to go see your doctor. So, here's the ticket. In America, there's a place called LabCorp. You just look them up on the internet. And all you do is you're going to go in there and you're going to find they have all these different tests. They have a menu. You're going to pick the test that has to do with testosterone, and there's lots of different tests. You have to do a little reading, and they're constantly changing the names of these tests, so I don't have the name to give you, but you're looking for basically a test that's going to identify your endocrine system, which is all your hormones, but primarily your testosterone. You pay for it. You print it off. Now you have a piece of paper in your hand. The next step is to find out where the closest LabCorp actual office is. Now all you got to do is take this piece of paper, walk in there, hand it to the lady at the front. She basically takes you into the back. They draw your blood, and in about a week, sometimes even a little less. I mean, I've done it where I've had it in 3-4 days. You're going to get an email, and it's going to be your lab results. Now you're going to have a really, really clear picture on what's going on. And it's not like you got to be some analyst to figure out what's going on. They make it very simple. You'll see they have kind of ranges, and they'll tell you testosterone, and they'll tell you what the normal range is and what your number is. So if you feel like, hey, I put some effort into how I'm living my life and I'm not having any success. You want to get a blood test? Boom. This is what you do. Now, let's just say that your testosterone is normal. Well, that means it goes back to how you're living your life. Unfortunately, you got to put more effort into living your life in a way that's going to make you feel better. And we can't blame low testosterone anymore. Now, if your testosterone is low, the next step is to seek a clinic, and they are all over the place. And, like the clinic that I refer my clients to, it's $200 a month. It's not expensive. And they're constantly giving you blood panels. They're constantly adjusting things to make sure that your endocrine system is dialed in. Now, keep in mind, be careful because some of these clinics, they're ridiculously expensive and they're not doing any more of a service than the ones like the one that I have. It's $200, full service. Now, granted, I have that set up with have a kind of a working relationship. It's like an in-house setup. But what I'm getting at is that same service you might pay $750 for per month. So be careful. Don't get sucked into a situation where you're kind of getting smoked or you're kind of getting ripped off or you're overspending for the service because it shouldn't be that way. Ultimately, you got your low testosterone because you've seen it in your test. You find your clinic, you go in there. You can probably bring your test. If it's a recent enough test, they'll probably use that test to get you going. They will prescribe you whatever level of testosterone you need to get back into that upper normal range. And this is going to be what it takes to fix your problem. Now, I know sometimes people say, it's $200 a month. I don't know if I can afford that. Well, look at your lifestyle. I would guarantee that there's something that you could cut out of your lifestyle that probably had something to do with giving you low testosterone to begin with. That would cover your clinic fee. Perfect example. Do you go to Starbucks? If you buy a coffee every day, it's going to cover your clinic fee. So either way, we've talked about 5 elements that can help you understand if you have it, and even a few ways to make sure that you can literally test how you feel with changing your lifestyle to where you can understand if it's truly low testosterone or the way you're living your life. One way or the next, you can figure it out. If you want to, just go straight to LabCorp, get the test, figure it out that way. But this video is really dedicated to giving you the information you need to figure out if you have low testosterone, if you do, how to fix it. That being said, rock and roll.